Ancient cities lost for centuries. For countless years, dozens of adventurers have risked their lives in pursuit of the legendary treasures hidden deep underwater. Local tales speak not just of ships flying over the lake, but actually entering its depths. Secret chambers buried beneath the great Egyptian Sphinx whisper of untold riches. Gold was considered the flesh of the gods, and ancient Egypt likely had the best supply of gold in the ancient world. Since the dawn of time, humanity has been obsessed with legends of hidden gold. But what if our desire for this precious metal goes beyond mere wealth? It almost seems as if we're genetically programmed to love gold. Ultimately, gold represents our connection with the stars. A number of researchers have suggested that ancient aliens came to Earth primarily to mine gold. Millions of people around the world believe we have been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. What if it were true? Did ancient aliens really help to shape our history? And if so, might they have come here in search of gold? Lake Guatavita, Colombia. Believed to be the site of an ancient meteor crater, this circular mountain lake is at the heart of one of mankind's greatest quests, the search for El Dorado, the lost city of gold. Since the 16th century, El Dorado has been the holy grail for fortune hunters. Legends abound about a place filled with untold riches somewhere in South America, yet to this day, the mythical city remains undiscovered. But if such a magnificent place does exist, how has it eluded explorers for centuries? Some believe the answer lies within this mysterious lake. The story of El Dorado developed from Lake Guatavita, which was within the territory of the Muisca, or the Chibcha people. A chiefdom not quite as advanced as the Incas or the Aztecs, but a civilization nonetheless that possessed a lot of gold. The ruler in the southern half of the Muisca territory was known as the Zipa. When the conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they called him El Dorado, Spanish for the Golden One. They gave him this name after observing the Muisca's most sacred ritual. The Zipa would float out on a royal barge to the middle of Lake Guatavita to make offerings of gold to a god believed to live at the bottom of the lake. It was said that the chief, covered in resin and then adorned with gold dust, would jump into the water to wash the gold dust off, and that this gold would accumulate in the lake. Golden objects and sacrifices were also thrown into the lake, and from that came the belief in El Dorado throughout Colombia. In 1912, an excavation of Lake Guatavita was led by British engineer Hartley Knowles. Knowles reported that he had recovered around $20,000 worth of treasure, including golden artifacts. He also believed much more lay beneath the hardened lake bed. Could Knowles's findings provide evidence that the story of the Muisca chief is based on truth? If so, just who or what was the so-called god who dwelled at the bottom of the lake? A number of researchers have suggested that ancient aliens came to Earth primarily to mine gold. Zecharia Sitchin proposed that these extraterrestrials needed gold to suspend in their atmosphere and preserve their planet. Is gold something that's really important to space exploration and astronomy? Actually, it is very important. Gold is an inert material. It doesn't react with anything. It's a wonderful conductor of electricity and a perfect reflector of infrared energy. You can use gold blankets to protect spacecraft against the intense heat of a star or any sort of heat source. Gold is a very rare and valuable element throughout the universe. Could aliens have come to Earth searching for gold? According to ancient astronaut theorists, it is not only possible, they claim the proof exists in the numerous texts and legends of the ancient world. The legend of Paititi. Consider the legendary Incan city of Paititi, thought to be located near the southeastern area of Peru. The conquistadors became obsessed with finding this mysterious city of gold they had heard was hidden in the jungles of eastern Peru. They called it Paititi, the Golden City. Stories of Paititi and El Dorado ultimately led to the exploration of the Amazon jungles. El Dorado and Paititi are frequently confused. El Dorado is believed to be a gold-producing site in northern South America, while Paititi is thought to be another civilization contemporaneous with the Incas in the area of Peru and Bolivia that is yet to be definitively found. That has been part of my quest over the last 25 years. Since 1984, American explorer Gregory Dyer-Menjian and his Peruvian counterpart Paulino Mamani have staged more than 15 expeditions in search of this mythical city of gold. There is an Incan road of stone leading towards what is supposed to be, as legend would have it, Paititi. That's what we've been following. They say that Pachamama, the earth goddess, covers these areas with such difficulty, the moss, the jungle, the rivers, that something could be hidden there forever. Their search began in Cusco, at the Incan holy place of Coricancha, which means golden courtyard. In 1559, Spanish conquistadors tore down Coricancha to construct the Cathedral of Santo Domingo, which still sits in the center of Cusco today, surrounded by the ruins of the ancient Incan temple. The cathedral features an enormous altar covered in gold, but according to the records of the conquistadors, it pales in comparison to the magnificent Coricancha, which was not only filled with gold statues, but was also covered in sheets of solid gold. Gold was important to the Inca because it was considered the sweat of the sun. The sun was the highest deity of the Inca, and therefore the sweat of the sun represented the most sacred possession imaginable. Ancient astronaut theorists believe a golden sun idol called the Punchao, that once resided in Coricancha, may provide evidence that extraterrestrials had contact with the Inca. Coricancha was famous for its gigantic golden disc that the ancient Inca worshipped. It was a symbol of a giant golden disc that allegedly landed from the sky in front of the Inca ruler Atahualpa, and he had direct contact, according to legends, with the sky gods. Could the giant golden disc that once resided inside Coricancha have been made to honor an alien visitor? And if extraterrestrials did come to mine gold, might this also provide evidence that Paititi is nearby? In 1533, the Spanish overtook the city of Cusco and plundered the temple of Coricancha in search of Incan gold. But according to local legend, the gold had already been moved 20 miles northwest of the city and deposited at the bottom of a nearby lake. Before the entire group of Spanish were able to get into Cusco, the priests found out about it, and they had all of the gold from all of the temples brought up to Lake Puré and thrown into the center. None of it has been found to this day. The amount of gold at today's prices would be in the billions. Perhaps even more mysterious are the frequent reports of unusual sightings in the skies over the area. Sightings that have been reported for hundreds of years. The local people of this area have told me not simply that the ships fly over the lake, but they actually enter the lake. The stories go that there's a little vortex that opens up just about the size of the spaceship, perhaps 20 feet across. The spaceship enters the lake. The vortex closes. Later, the vortex opens, and the ship leaves again. If, as the local inhabitants claim, strange, possibly alien spacecraft really do come to this area, might there be a connection between these visitations and the legends of gold hidden at the bottom of Lake Puré? Dozens of people have risked their lives, in some cases have actually died, trying to find where Paititi is. You have the standard treasure hunter who goes after it for the monetary value. You have certain people who go because they know that their name will be immortalized forever. But you also have people who go in search of this because they know that if you find the treasure, you will literally prove that a legend is factual. Perhaps the greater mystery is not if or where the mythical cities of El Dorado and Paititi may be discovered, but what might be revealed once they are found. The Philosopher's Stone. Tokyo Imperial University, March 1924. In an early experiment with nuclear energy, Professor Hantaro Nagaoka directs 150,000 volts of electricity at a mercury isotope under a dielectric layer of paraffin oil for 4 hours. The purpose? To strike out a hydrogen proton from the nucleus of the mercury and produce a new element, gold. The experiment is a success. Professor Nagaoka has solved the mystery that has eluded scientists for centuries, the mystery of the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone was an idea that you could have a magical material that would turn lead, or some very inexpensive metal into gold. The thought that one could do that is attractive in and of itself. For thousands of years, kings sought out this mythical device, one that could create gold out of common metal. Scientists and alchemists spent centuries trying to invent one. Even Sir Isaac Newton obsessed over the mystery of the Philosopher's Stone in the 17th century, although the English crown, fearing the potential devaluation of gold, had made the practice of alchemy punishable by death. By the time of Professor Nagaoka's experiment in 1924, most of the scientific community had declared the process of producing gold from another metal impossible. But that quickly changed once they knew where to look. The secret of alchemy lies in the stars. When you think about how gold is made naturally, it's formed basically in the nuclear reactions in the sun, and then spread throughout the universe when a supernova occurs. The sun explodes and sends all of the products out. Because we now can do controlled nuclear reactions, we have the ability finally to essentially manufacture gold from other elements. Here at the University of California, Irvine, Dr. A.J. Shaka conducts experiments in alchemy nearly every day. We could put mercury into one of these tubes. Mercury has a minor isotope of 0.15%, mercury-196, and that isotope will actually pick up a neutron and, in about 23 hours, turn into gold. To bring the reactor to full capacity, Dr. Shaka removes the control rods that absorb neutrons and keep them from reacting with other atoms. This generates power at a staggering rate. In terms of the amount of power, including electrical energy, that you can generate from a given mass of material, nuclear is about 10 to 20 million times better than anything else. After 24 hours, the experiment has been a success and yields gold, a real-life philosopher's stone at work in the basement of a university building. The discovery of alchemy has been invaluable to science, but ironically, it has not produced untold riches. If you irradiate for about a day in our reactor, you make 0.3 of a cent's worth of gold. Since we charge $200 an hour to operate the reactor, you're pretty far in the hole. But while modern-day alchemy is considered far too inefficient to create vast new caches of gold, ancient astronaut theorists believe a much greater technology than our own may have been at work thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, another place where gold was linked to the gods. The idea of gold being some sort of divine metal, a divine element, is very much ingrained in the ancient Egyptian systems of belief. Gold was the flesh of the gods, so it held very great significance. Egypt had probably the best supply of gold anywhere in the ancient world. We find that in some of the letters which survive between kings of Babylon, Syria, and others in Egypt. A lot of them are begging letters, basically saying to the Egyptian king, "My brother the Pharaoh, please send me gold, lots of gold, because gold is as dust in the land of my brother the Pharaoh." But just how did gold come to be so much more abundant in ancient Egypt than in neighboring lands? And why did the Egyptians view the metal as something not of this world? According to ancient astronaut theorists, it is entirely possible that the Egyptians were capable of actually manufacturing gold and may have received otherworldly help to do so. If alchemical transmutations can be performed in a modest facility like the one at the University of California, Irvine, what might be possible with a larger reactor, a reactor perhaps the size of the Great Pyramid at Giza? Christopher Dunn has suggested that the Giza Pyramid is some kind of giant machine and that some kind of chemical reaction was taking place inside the pyramid. It's possible that the Giza Pyramid was actually being used to transmute other elements into gold. Looking into the blueprints of the internal arrangement of passageways, chambers, and shafts, the appearance of it to me did not resemble anything that would be used as a tomb. The precision with which it was built, the precision of the stones that go into building the Queen's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, and then also thousands and thousands of tons of granite that were brought down the Nile 500 miles to build the King's Chamber. These are the features that really shout out and say, there's something going on here. There's something different. It was built like a machine. Perhaps it functioned like a machine. Could it be that the Great Pyramid was the original philosopher's stone? If so, how could an ancient civilization have constructed the equivalent of a nuclear reactor? Might the centuries-old search for the philosopher's stone represent more than just a desire for gold and riches? Could it represent, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, the search for lost technology? Perhaps the key to that knowledge still lies hidden somewhere here on Earth and can be found in areas still containing vast amounts of hidden treasure. The Great Sphinx and Hidden Chambers. 1936. The Giza Plateau, Egypt. For more than 3,000 years, the body of the Great Sphinx had been buried beneath the sand. But after 11 years of work, Egyptian archaeologists uncovered the entire monument for the first time since antiquity. At 241 feet long and 66 feet high, it is the largest and oldest monolithic statue in the world. Even more incredible is its shape. The Sphinx has the head of a man and the body of a lion. Although Egyptologists date the construction of the Great Sphinx to the reign of the pharaoh Khafra in approximately 2500 BC, others claim its construction could be much, much older. The orthodox date of about 2500 BC tagged on these monuments has been challenged by a group of researchers, including myself, who have argued that the erosion of the Sphinx suggests a much, much older Sphinx. Although Egyptologists have found no agreement as to when or why this strange monument was built, ancient astronaut theorists believe it may offer proof of extraterrestrials being present in ancient Egypt. We see in many ancient Sumerian and Egyptian inscriptions sphinxes, half man, half animal of some kind, and variants to a degree of different combinations of animals and human beings. We have to wonder why they would be doing this, and logically it starts to make more sense when we realize a lot of these ancient texts explain that extraterrestrials came here and created us in their image and after their likeness. If you believe the work of the late Zecharia Sitchin, who proposed that the Anunnaki came from a planet somewhere out in our solar system and that they came here to mine for gold, they figured they weren't going to do the work themselves, so they decided to take what creatures were on this planet at the time, genetically alter them, and make mankind. And if that's the case, it's very possible that they could have been using genetic alterations to experiment not only with humanity, but with mixing other species with humanity. Could the Great Sphinx be evidence of genetic engineering by ancient aliens? And if, as Zecharia Sitchin proposed, extraterrestrials were genetically altering humans and animals for the purpose of mining gold, might this enormous structure have at one point been a repository for that gold? Is it possible that when Egyptian archaeologists began excavating the Great Sphinx, what they were really searching for was gold? Over the centuries, secret chambers, shafts, and elaborate tunnel systems have indeed been discovered all around the Giza Plateau. A shaft was discovered called the Osiris Shaft, which led under the Giza Plateau behind the Sphinx. In that shaft are various passageways that lead seemingly nowhere. In recent years, ground-penetrating radar, GPR scans have been conducted, which reveal evidence of numerous underground cavities located not only around the Sphinx, but underneath it as well. From a scientific point of view, I'm not talking about speculation and theories and legends and so forth. That was the very first time that there was very strong indication that there might be these hidden tunnels and chambers under the Sphinx. According to this, they found very strong evidence of what looked like artificial chambers. It is not a question as to whether or not there is a secret underground passage underneath the Giza Plateau. The question is, can we get access to this? And of course, the all-important question is there something there of extraordinary value, maybe even something which defies science, which might even be of an extraterrestrial nature? If the alleged cavities under the Sphinx contain not only gold, but gold mined by ancient alien beings, might they also contain something more than just material treasure? Ancient astronaut theorists believe an elaborate secret repository is located under the Sphinx's paws, known as the Hall of Records. It dates back to the fall of Atlantis, which, according to ancient texts, is said to have occurred nearly 12,000 years ago. They also claim that there were extraterrestrials living in Atlantis, and that they needed a repository to house all of their accumulated knowledge. The Hall of Records was made by us, but with the tools and knowledge of acceleration. It is speculated that a group of survivors of Atlantis came to Egypt at about 10,500 BC, brought along with them the records, the knowledge, and built this storeroom somewhere at Giza. If archaeologists someday unearth secret chambers below the Sphinx, what will they find? Gold? A library of ancient extraterrestrial knowledge? Or might they perhaps find both? My personal view is that it would be loaded with gold, technology that once belonged to the gods. It would help us to answer who built the pyramids, how they built it, and likely there is a portal or a gateway that leads into the stars within this Hall of Records. If the Hall of Records really does exist, is it possible that it contains extraterrestrial knowledge, not on ancient scrolls, but stored on gold? Gold is a pretty amazing metal. It's one of the best conductors of electricity we have, which is obviously very important in electronic applications. When you need a really good conductor that won't corrode, gold is the choice you would make. Is ancient knowledge not only stored with gold, But stored on gold really the mysterious secret of this precious metal? Perhaps the answer lies hidden 18 miles away, deep beneath a church in Rennes-le-Château, France. The mystery of Rennes-le-Château. The village of Rennes-le-Château, France, January 29th, 1953. Marie Denarnaud, a frail 85-year-old woman, lies on her deathbed, promising to divulge a long-held secret about a vast treasure. But a recent stroke has left her unable to speak or write, and her secret dies with her. Before Marie's death, she had promised to tell someone the secret. "I will tell you the secret, and you will be rich beyond your wildest dreams." What she had said was, "The people of this village walk on enough gold to make them wealthy for 100 years, and they have no idea." She was never able to speak the secret after she had her stroke. So what was Marie talking about? Legends of a vast gold treasure hidden at Rennes-le-Château date all the way back to the 5th century, when, after sacking Rome in 410, Germanic warriors known as the Visigoths made their way to the area with all the stolen treasure they could carry. But when they abandoned the region some 200 years later, they reportedly left some of their ill-gotten wealth behind. The Visigoths were known to have buried treasure with their dead. So what Marie was told became significant because of this idea that there might be gold buried there. For hundreds of years, the rumors of buried treasure persisted, although no tangible evidence of it was ever found. But then, in 1891, a young parish priest named Béranger Saunière was restoring the local church when, according to popular legend, he discovered something that turned him into an extremely wealthy man, almost overnight. This wealth that he had was part of a vast golden treasure that was kept underground in this church, in a weird series of catacombs. These catacombs around Rennes-le-Château were ancient. They'd been there long before the church had been built. And here's an area that's known to have these caves that were used by the Visigoths. I lived here 16 years, and we know here's a tunnel under this garden. It comes along this way from the castle until the church, and it runs in this way. There have been people who've been coming here since the 1950s in search of gold, and some have found it. The question is whether finding gold is everything there is to this mystery, or whether it's just the first step along many steps to go before we actually uncover the real mystery of Rennes-le-Château. Although Father Saunière claimed to have come upon this vast wealth by chance, many believe he actively searched for the Visigoth gold, and that much more still lies hidden in the catacombs beneath the church. But even more mysterious than the priest's possible discovery of gold was his strange behavior afterward, a behavior that became reflected in the design of the church itself. Béranger Saunière is a guy who goes in search of ancient documents, who goes in search of certain specific knowledge in alchemical circles. So what we have found in a lot of alchemical processes is the importance of gold. What happens next is that he begins to build a church. He builds it according to a plan. This plan is to make contact with the divine, and so I think Saunière realized that certain metals could be transformed into something which truly made it a spiritual experience. Might the golden treasure Father Saunière supposedly unearthed have contained more than just monetary value? Could it have held some otherworldly knowledge? The priest confided in only one other person as to the origin of this mysterious wealth: his housekeeper, Marie Denarnaud. But what was the secret that they shared? Ancient astronaut theorists believe a clue may lie in the inscription found over the door of the church. Béranger Saunière placed an inscription over the door that people have been talking about for 100 years. The inscription says, "Terribilis est locus iste." It's mistakenly translated most often as "this place is terrible." But in fact, the inscription comes from the Old Testament, from the book of Genesis. Jacob has a dream about a ladder that connects heaven to earth, where humans could connect to the divine. So when you look at the Old Testament translation, what it really says is, "This place is awesome." Is this inscription from the Old Testament of the Hebrew Bible, a reference to something divine or mighty, pointing to an extraterrestrial connection? I believe Rennes-le-Château could be a stargate to another world. This is based on the inscription placed above the entrance to the church by Béranger Saunière. Why would this priest put this inscription there, unless he's indicating that this awesome and tremendously powerful place, Rennes-le-Château, is a gateway to the stars? Rennes-le-Château, to me, is one of the spookiest and most powerful places I've ever been. The ground there is oozing mystery. We know that people have said that Rennes-le-Château is a place for UFOs. We know people have reported time slips, and people have said that they have had encounters with the devil. So there is definitely something about that area which suggests that for centuries, very strange and bizarre things happen. Could this tiny village be a gateway to an extraterrestrial past, or even another dimension? Perhaps the answer lies buried with Marie Denarnaud. Or as some believe, the secrets of Rennes-le-Château might still be revealed, and the answer may lie not in France, but just to the north in Scotland. Rosslyn Chapel, Scotland. Perched atop a hill overlooking the village of Rosslyn, 7 miles south of Edinburgh, sits this medieval 15th century church. Some say that hidden on the grounds, in secret chambers within the church, are some of the world's greatest lost relics, including the treasure of the Knights Templar. This elite band of warrior monks had been based at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem during the Christian Crusades. They were also rumored to have been in possession of many valuable religious artifacts, including the most valuable golden relic of all, the Holy Grail, the cup used by Jesus during the Last Supper. The Knights Templar began excavating at Solomon's Temple. It's said that they discovered secret caverns, which held a huge hoard of gold artifacts. At the time of the sacking of Solomon's Temple, the treasure there suddenly vanished. They then took this treasure to Scotland and buried it at Rosslyn Chapel. Rosslyn Chapel is one of the most fascinating possible recreations of Solomon's Temple. It literally is a Holy Grail temple that was constructed by William Sinclair and is designed to be a repository of Holy Grail secrets. When it was created, it had the most wonderful and fantastic symbolism, perhaps anywhere in the world. Could Rosslyn Chapel really have been built to house the Holy Grail? Some believe the architecture of the chapel is adorned with mysterious messages and symbols that reveal the secret whereabouts of the Cup of Christ. And here we are, this is Rosslyn Chapel. William Sinclair was responsible for building the chapel. He was a very rich individual, was the Chancellor of Scotland at the time. We see this extraordinarily gifted, brilliant man collecting the wisdom traditions from around the world and instilling all of those into Rosslyn Chapel. Among the many carvings found in the walls of Rosslyn Chapel are faces called the Green Men, pagan deities that represent growth and rebirth. Some believe these strange faces provide a clue that the chapel truly does hold the Holy Grail. The carvings themselves have a dual meaning. They always have had a dual meaning. The Green Man appears in over 110 different locations. As you watch the progression of the Green Man from east to west, that progression represents the passing of time. So all the youngest of all the Green Man carvings are on the eastern wall, and towards the west, they become older. This symbolizes the ultimate secrets of nature, and it makes one wonder if, in fact, the Grail is connected with the secrets in the presence of the Green Man in this Holy Grail chapel. But if the Holy Grail truly does reside in Rosslyn Chapel, where might it be hidden? Some believe it lies within an ornate pillar called the Apprentice Pillar, and at least one person has actually attempted to retrieve it. We actually have a story which is known to be factual. A person came into the chapel with an axe, intent on hacking down the Apprentice Pillar because he was convinced that the Grail was actually inside. What is the Grail? What if I were to say, the Grail is your DNA, because it is your past, and it is your future? And a very interesting thing is when you look at that pillar, you see that it is actually the DNA column. Might all these mysterious carvings that have been linked to the Holy Grail indicate that the chalice used by Jesus at the Last Supper was something more than just a drinking vessel? The whole story is very fascinating to the ancient astronaut theory. Wolfram von Eschenbach, for example, suggests that the Holy Grail arrived from the stars, and the question is, what did he mean by that? It is often described as this vessel that had blinking red lights. Were the Templars in possession of some technological device? Could the Holy Grail really be an ancient link between Jesus and some spiritual or otherworldly power? And might finding it provide proof of a link between ourselves and an extraterrestrial origin? If so, might this mysterious church, like other so-called temples of gold in Peru, Egypt, and France, contain treasure far more valuable than mere monetary wealth? Whether we are in Rosslyn Chapel or Rennes-le-Château, We always go back underneath the earth, where there might not just be spiritual treasure to be found, but also physical treasure. Gold has been one of the most important quests of all ancient and sacred traditions. Gold symbolizes wealth, it symbolizes power. But ultimately, gold represents our connection with the stars. Cultures all over the world value gold more than anything else, and it seems that they knew something about gold that we are yet to discover. Could gold actually be the ultimate link between humans and other worldly beings? A tangible connection to extraterrestrial ancestors that came to Earth thousands of years ago? Perhaps. But if the search for gold really is one of the reasons why ancient aliens traveled to the third planet from the sun, one more question remains. Will they return for more? Will they return for more? Will they return for more? Will they return for more?